So I've never had really that safe space, I think, to cry, to admit my weakness, to say all the things that I wanted to say. So I think that's why probably my pregnancy and motherhood was so tough on me as well, because now I had all of those emotions, all of those hormones shooting through my body, and I couldn't handle it. I was going to implode and I needed something to do. So I started writing. But yeah, I think that's probably why, it's just that safe space. And it's something I'm trying to create now for myself, but also for other people. And that's why when I decided to write as well, like I decided to write nonfiction. And from my point of view, because so many people can read it and relate. So it's also giving a space to other people to say, you know what, those feelings are okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony, and today our special guest is Sandrine, a French-Canadian wellness coach, kinesiologist, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and author and speaker. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today, Sandrine?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we really get started, I wanted to talk about your memoirs. You have two memoirs. Actually, one is currently in the works of getting out soon, possibly in November or December of 2025. But you have one that is already out, and the name of that memoir is
Uncensored First Time Mom Confession. So it's a raw and authentic review. So I started this memoir when I was postpartum. I was couple months postpartum and I was overwhelmed and I was having lots of emotional breakdowns. I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And here's the thing about pregnancy, about motherhood, what everyone used to tell me is like how beautiful and magical it was going to be, how, everything was going to fall into pieces and all that. And I got there and it just wasn't my experience. And because I had like everyone telling me it's going to be like this and this and this and this, and it wasn't my experience, I started thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, obviously, like I'm the problem. Like the issue is me. And so when I got there, when I was overwhelmed and all, I started journaling. It was the thing that everyone told me before, like, oh, you should start writing, you should start journaling and all. And I would never do that. I was like, yeah, sure, but I don't have time. Like who has time to journal? Who has time to write? But then I was postpartum, I was overwhelmed, and I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And I started writing and all. And the goal wasn't to make a book out of it. The goal was just to write for me, to go back into my pregnancy, to go back into everything that I have felt, everything that has happened, all of the things that, people were telling me it's going to be like this, and versus what was my experience. And I just started writing. It made me feel so much better, first of all. But then one of my friends got pregnant and I started thinking, well, maybe I can share this. So I started sharing it with a couple people. And then it's one of my friends who come up to me one day and she was like, so I was just thinking, how do we market this? And I was like, oh, wait, we don't. Like, this is not a marketing this. Like, this is my personal truth. Like, this is just me. Like, I shared it with you, but we're not sharing it with anyone else. But then I started thinking, like if I felt that way, if I felt there was something wrong with me, I'm probably not alone. There's probably lots of other moms out there that felt the same way I did, who maybe didn't say anything about it because, they didn't want to be judged. They didn't want to be shamed and all. They felt guilty about some emotion that they were having. So I started thinking, like if I could actually publish that book, what good could it do to other moms? If I were to have had that book throughout my pregnancy, I probably wouldn't have had as many breakdowns or as many questions or as many moments of thinking, you know what, I'm the problem. Because I would have had someone else that had a similar experience and I would have been like, okay, good. It's just people don't talk about it, but I'm okay. This is okay. I can feel this way. Like I'm not the problem. So that's how it all got started. And then I was now used to writing. I was now used to journaling. So I just kept it going. And that's why I have a second book now. But my goal with this book is really to kind of talk about all of the taboos about motherhood, about pregnancy, all of the bittersweetness of the experience as well, because I feel we talk about the beautiful, we talk about the magical, all of those positive things, but we don't really talk a whole lot about the negative side of it, or like the identity shift, the guilt, the shame, all of those emotions. We just kind of like hide them in the corner because it's not pretty to look at, but it's real, you know? A lot of mothers feel the same way. So we need to talk about it. So that was the goal of the book, to open up that conversation. And that's what I'm trying to do with this book.
There are three things that you said. Well, there's quite a few things, but there's three things that I want to hit on, and that was guilt, shame, and identity change.
Mhm.
For you, how did you approach these three things, and how were you able to heal, or how were you able to rewire your brain to not give into that darkness, one might say?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say like for the identity change, this one was more so into the postpartum season, you know, because it is a big change. Like I used to value myself a lot with the athletic performance I could do, with what my business is doing, with, you know, how much revenue I can bring in, with like what I can do, anything exceptional, like, okay, this is me, like I have value in all of that. And then you become pregnant and there's a lot of things that you can't do anymore. And then you're postpartum, so you're not pregnant anymore. You have a baby, but you are sore, you know, you've been through labor and all. There's still so much you can't do. There's still so much you need to stay at home. You have more responsibility. So, you know, your life has changed a whole lot. And all of those things with which I used to value myself, to say, oh, I'm a good person, I am worthy, and all that, they were gone. So I had to take a hard look at my life and realize that I had been valuing myself a lot externally, not really internally for the person I was. And I've had to ask myself tons of questions to really internalize all of this and be like, okay, who am I really? Like, what's my value? What's my worth? Because I didn't understand that I have value as a mother, you know, like I have a new baby. He depends on me, you know, I knew that. But it had never been how I valued myself before. So it didn't feel like me. It didn't feel as important like for my work. So I've had to do a lot of questioning. It was really a big shift there. And like nowadays, I would say I have more value as a mother. Like it helps. It is part of my identity, but it is not my whole identity. You know, like sometimes you hear people talk about motherhood and say, you know, like your kids will be the center, they will be everything. But I feel like a person can't be defined by just one thing. And that was one of the things also that I felt guilty for. It's like it should be enough. You know, having a kid should be enough, but it wasn't. You know, I'm a whole person. I have so many other things, you know, to my personality, and I need that. So I had to also come to terms to that and to say, it is okay. You know, if, yeah, you want to go back to work, you want to do this and this and this. So that was a big part of the identity shift I went through. The shame part was a lot about, you know, more so like the negative emotion that I was feeling throughout my pregnancy, throughout my motherhood journey, or like guilt as well, because when I got pregnant, it wasn't necessarily planned, you know, it just kind of happened. But I was the type of person that, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, yes, I'm gonna have kids and all, and then you push it and push it and push it. And I also got into thinking, okay, do I really want kids? Like, is this still something that I want for my life? And I still hadn't had the answer to that question when I got pregnant. So I got overwhelmed. I had a big breakdown, but there was a lot of shame and guilt for feeling that way, because I'm also aware of so many mothers, so many women that are struggling to get pregnant, who would have been overexcited, who would have been, you know, like over the moon, like it would have been like the biggest day of their life, like the happiest day of their life. And I was there and I was pregnant and I was overwhelmed and I didn't know how I felt. So there was a lot of shame and guilt around that. I had to write a lot to process this, I guess. And I think what helped me the most is just a conversation I'm having with other mothers, with other women, because at the time I was like, okay, what's wrong with me? Like I'm supposed to be excited. This is supposed to be good and all. And I couldn't feel that way. But then the more I talk to other moms, the more I talk to other women, they're like, yeah, I also had a breakdown. They were like, yeah, yeah, it was super scary. And I started thinking like, okay, but like, why was it that scary moment? So, when you start thinking it's like it should be natural, you're having a kid and all, but like nowadays there's so many more things. Your life will change. You won't, we're just like a generation of like trauma that has been passed down by our parents, by the environment, by all of that. Like you don't want to reproduce it. So would I be a good mom or will I just screw up my kid? Like there's so much that went into it. That now, like from, not being in that situation, now I can look back and understand and give myself grace for it. But when I was in that spot, I definitely wasn't being kind to myself. It's more with like, now, like a couple years afterwards, I'm like, okay, yes, now I can give myself grace for it.
And would you say that there was a bit of imposter syndrome during this phase of your life?
For the being a mom, becoming a mother, probably. I think I went through a big part of my life being disconnected in some way and just kind of like going through the motion of like what you're supposed to be doing and just doing that and not asking myself a lot of questions and being kind of disconnected from my emotion and all of that. And then I got pregnant and it got me thinking about all of the things I would have to do. And yeah, I didn't know if I would be able to fill that role or, if I would be good at it. So definitely. And I think that's probably one of the things that a lot of mothers don't think they will be good mothers or they don't know, like we're always trying, to be the best mom, to be perfect and all. Truth is we're never going to be perfect, even though we're trying. And I'm sure even though this generation is doing a lot of things better, they're trying to, do certain things a different way. We're trying to improve. I'm sure in 20 years, my son's probably going to come to me and be like, Mom, you screw me up in that way. And I'm going to be like, well, I'm sorry. Like, first of all, apologize. I didn't know what I was doing, and how can I do better? Like, I'm sure we're just trying to do better, but there's definitely going to be something that he's going to be able to say, like, Mom, you did not handle that properly. And yeah, it will happen. So I have to also give myself grace, for future me. Who knows? Like, even though I can try to do the best, it won't be.
You've talking about journal writing. Can you share some of the
Mhm.
fruits that you've seen in your life by doing this exercise?
Well, I think there's a big difference in how I process emotion in the sense that my brain was really good at understanding emotion, but I wasn't really feeling that. So the big difference is, when something is in your head, you can overthink it a little bit, but you're not really feeling it. It's in your head. When I started writing it, editing it, and then really going through that process of internalizing and then trying to figure out what was happening, I got many breakdowns when I was writing, like I really started to process everything that was happening, that had happened before, and all that. So I think journaling for me was a big way to just feel my emotion, which I wasn't used to feeling before.
Why do you think that is? If you care to share, why wasn't that it that you were able to feel your own emotions?
Well, maybe it's not that I wasn't able to feel my emotion versus I didn't give myself permission to feel
Mhm.
them. I was growing up, I was part of, like a messy divorce. Let's just say that, fortunately, a lot of people can relate to that, but I've been, therapist to one of my parents. I've been, there for a lot of fights and all. I've been trying to keep the peace and all. I did all of that. And, when I went through my teenage years, I did a lot of martial arts, and there was still this stigma inside of my dojo of, you don't want to be weak. You're not going to be a wimp, like you're strong. Don't cry. Like, even though you're a girl, like, no, you don't want to be a wimp. You don't want to do. So there was always this environment of there's no safe place for your feeling. Just hold it in. Okay. You're fine. You want to be strong. Okay. And to be strong, you don't have emotion. You have that poker face on. You're not feeling anything. You're good. You're strong and all of that. So I grew up in that kind of environment that having feelings, like being happy, being strong, it's all good. But like if you're scared, if you're sad, if you're guilty, if you feel ashamed, if you don't feel good about yourself, hide it. No one wants to know how you need to be strong and all. So I grew up in that environment and I just kept going. I was the type of person that you would ask me, are you okay? Like, how are you? It's like, I'm fine. No matter what's happening, I'm fine. So I used to keep that buried. I don't talk about it because no one wants to know. And also, even if they wanted to know, in my head, that would make me less worthy in a way. Like, being sad was a negative emotion. And because I was sad, I was weak. And I don't want to be weak. I want to be strong. I want to appear strong. I want to be that strong person. So I've never had really that safe space, I think, to cry, to admit my weakness, to say all the things that I wanted to say. So I think that's why probably my pregnancy and motherhood was so tough on me as well, because now I had all of those emotions, all of those hormones shooting through my body, and I couldn't handle it. I was going to implode and I needed something to do. So I started writing. But yeah, I think that's probably why, it's just that safe space. And it's something I'm trying to create now for myself, but also for other people. And that's why when I decided to write as well, like I decided to write nonfiction. And from my point of view, because so many people can read it and relate. So it's also giving a space to other people to say, you know what, those feelings are okay. If I can publish a book, okay, it's out there in the whole world, okay? And you can relate to it, and so many people can relate to it, it's okay to have those emotions. It's okay. Like, so I'm trying to create, I think, that safe space that I didn't have for myself and for other people now.
Do you still go to the dojo?
No, I don't. It was more so teenage years. I went back when I was, 25 and all. But no, I don't go anymore. I tried going back to, like different type of like martial arts and stuff. But the problem is now I have a problem, I think, with authority. When people are overusing that power, I have a trouble with that. So I'm having trouble with, the instructor student kind of
Mm.
place that there is in dojo. And also, there's so many technique, there's so many katas and all. I feel like my mom brain just doesn't have the space anymore for all of those things.
Yes. So now I wanted to jump into your second memoir. It's currently in
Mhm.
the works to being, as of this recording, to be published in December time of 2025.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the title and can you tell us a bit about this memoir that you're writing?
For sure. So the title right now is Bowing to Predators, and it's going to be a memoir on abuse hidden in tradition. So this memoir will take place during that time that I was doing martial arts. So from 13 to 18 years old, with a little bit of a couple of scenes, let's say, later on in life. But it was a time in my life that I was doing martial arts. I was great at it. I loved it. Unfortunately, some of the instructors, the environment were more so, let's just say that there was like physical, emotional abuse and grooming as well. And because I was a teenager, those are things I didn't understand. At first, let's say a couple of years after I've stopped doing martial arts, I hadn't realized yet what I was into. It's later on when I started talking to some people about my experience and they stopped and they were like, this is not okay. That I then realized that, oh, so many things that were normal for me were actually very inappropriate. But when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, you look up to other adults, to
Mhm.
know how to navigate life, to know what's acceptable or not. And I was in a position that those people in authority position were having some behaviors and all that was accepted by all of the other adults around. So if everyone accepted it, who was I, the little 13-year-old, to raise my hand and be like, oh, I really think this is not okay. I really think this is not acceptable. So I grew up thinking that was just normal, that everyone gets knocked out by their coach. That's how you learn, put your guards up, oh, I did it. Well, you deserve to get smacked in the face. Like I just thought those things were normal. And because martial art is such a physical sport, there was always a part of me that used to invalidate myself, to invalidate what I've been through, saying like, well, you're just being a wimp, you're just like, this is a physical sport. You're supposed to get punched and kicked and all. But there's a limit to which there's like, if you're in a fight, you're fighting, you're getting punched, fine. I'm okay with that. It has happened. I have nothing against it. But when you're in a training session, when your coach who's 30 years like older than you is just trying to make sure everyone knows, like he's superior, he's in a power position, and he's just abusing his authority. And when it becomes a ground for middle-aged men to ask little girls out, girls that have not reached the age of consent yet, this is a problem. But because all of those behavior were accepted around me, I just thought it was appropriate. So this book is centered, yes, around a time in my life where there was physical, emotional abuse and grooming, but it is centered on healing. So my goal with this book, it's not to have graphic, abusive scene. It's more so to see what I've been through, how I saw it, how it has impacted me in my life, and how I've been able to heal through it. So my goal is to raise awareness, because some type of abuse, you're going to see it and you're going to be like, yes, this is abusive. But sometimes it's more manipulation, It's something that's not necessarily obvious until it really becomes abusive. So how can we prevent it? How can we stop it from happening in the beginning? And if you have been through any kind of physical, emotional abuse, I want you to be able to read my book, to relate, to feel through it. And there's probably going to be a big part of you that's going to be able to heal with me as well. So that's the goal of the book, to promote healing, to raise awareness, and to be able to also break silence about it, because this is another big taboo that society have, to keep everything quiet, to keep everything silent. Even when I started talking about this book, a lot of people were like, yes, but why? Like, why are you talking about it? Like, why not just keep it quiet? And it is to break that silence that we're still having about those.
During these years, from your teenage years to today, have there been any people who have motivated you to break free, or maybe not a person, but maybe a specific book that have helped you to rewire and to give you that confidence that you can have your own power?
I would love to have a specific quote, I think, for you, a specific book. I'm looking for her name right now. Um, to be honest, I think I would probably have kept going, disconnected as I was, if I hadn't become pregnant. It is kind of like a weird thing to say, but I don't think if I didn't become pregnant, I don't think I would be an author right now. This is kind of like the funny, ironic thing that life is doing for me. Um, I had read a couple of, like self-help book, um, just to, like help see perspective, but no one really, I think I was really good at hiding my emotion, at keeping my poker face, that right now. Um, so one of the thing my mom told me recently is how surprised she was that I was the one like writing books and doing all of that, because I had never been the person that would be honest. I would never be the person like sharing her emotion and all. And she was like, I can't believe it's you that's doing that, because I think for everyone in my life, it's just a big surprise, to be honest. Like they were not expecting that. So no one really pushed me to do it. I think I had a lot of support, when I decided to start writing, to publish a book and all. And right now, like I have a lot of support from my husband. I have a lot of support from my close friends and all to keep doing what I'm doing. Um, but no, I don't think anyone, well, my baby basically motivated me, I guess, to do this process and to start questioning myself, because I really wanted to do better. I wanted to do better than other generation. I didn't want to screw up my kids. So I was like, I need to heal all of that. I need to do better in some ways. So then I started going through all of that. And then I'm still trying to find a name. I have the name of a book, but it's not coming into my mind right now. I'll try to have it back for you later.
Okay. And now I wanted to get into um, the work that you do because you're also a wellness coach and how do you pronounce it? I can't, I'm always struggling with this
A
word.
kinesiologist.
Can you say it one more time?
Kinesiologist.
Kinesiologist. Can you share a bit about the work that you do and are you open to working with new clients?
Of course. Well, if you want the proper term, so because it was in Laval University in French, it's kinésiologue. But yeah, so I'm a wellness coach, just to have the proper terms. So I'm a wellness coach. Yes, I'm open still to having clients. I do specialize more so with women. I do have, bodybuilders, I have runners and all that. But more so, most of my clientele comes from, women that are pregnant, that are postpartum, that are close to menopause, perimenopause, or have a lot of hormonal imbalances going through their body. There's a big difference with wellness with men versus wellness with women. There's a big difference in the way hormones impact the body. And I think, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to just feel better, um, to gain muscle mass, to run, to whatever like your fitness goal is, whatever your health goal is, if you try to approach it the same way you would approach it for a man, it's often not going to work. So I work with a lot of women, and what I found interesting, in my practice is the difference is yes, we talk about nutrition, yes, we talk about exercise, workouts, and all of that. But the thing is, most of the time, people nowadays know they need to exercise. They know they need to eat healthy. Like it's basic knowledge. Everyone
Yeah.
knows that. But there's a reason why people don't do it. What is that reason? And that's what I'm trying to uncover with my coaching. Sometimes, like there's just no time. Sometimes it's, you have time, but you gave it all to other people. We have boundaries issue. Sometimes it's more mental health that needs to be addressed. It's more stress, it's more anxiety. It's all of those other things around it that makes it difficult to be consistent, that makes it difficult to lose weight if that's a goal that you're having. So it's all of those other issues, all of those relationship dynamic, all of those mental health issues, stress, anxiety, and all of that that we have to deal with. The mind and the body work together. You can't just say like, yes, do those exercise. You're done. You're good. There's so much more that gets into it. And most of my clients are also mothers. So there's a lot to deal with just with the routine. And also, there was a big difference in how I approached coaching before I got pregnant versus now that I've gone through all of it, because there's a big difference between knowing in theory what's happening versus going through it. So my coaching has definitely changed a lot since then. And yeah, sometimes, we're having meetings and we don't even talk about nutrition. We don't even talk about exercise because there's so much other things going on that we need to manage. So I'm a wellness coach, I'm an exercise physiologist, nutrition and all. But then sometimes I'm more of a life coach, to be honest. And we just deal with whatever we have to deal with to make sure that they keep progressing.
And what are you most passionate about with the work that you do?
I would say I really enjoy coaching women and writing those books because I feel that now I make a bigger difference. I have a bigger impact for people. Before, let's say I would just, help a couple of people lose 10 pounds or lose 20 pounds and they're happy and all that. And it's good, it's perfect. But now, like, we're really diving deeper into the mental health side of things, into the stress, the burnout, the anxiety. And when they start feeling better, it's not so much about the weight anymore. It's about how they see themselves in the mirror. It's about self-love. It's about self-worth and all that. And it is so much more gratifying, when someone gets to that point of loving themselves, of feeling good about themselves, feeling confident in their body, in what they can do. And just to have that space to talk about all that mental health issue, or someone that is reading my book that told me they cried the whole time, and they needed that. They needed to hear it. I think it is so much more gratifying to me to have that side of the coaching, that side of, the writing, than before when it was more surface level, let's say it that way.
Well, thank you so much, Sandrine, for sharing all about your journey. Do you have any websites where people can check out your business, and of course, where they can get a copy of your memoir?
Yeah, so my website is my full name. So Sandrine Lavoie-Filion, Sandrine Lavoie-Filion. I know it's a long name. You can talk to my mom and dad, if you have a problem with that, but this is the name I have. And it's the same name you can use for Instagram, Facebook. I am on TikTok as My Self-Published Saga. And if you go onto Amazon, you can find me there as well. So Sandrine Lavoie-Filion. And you can check out Uncensored First-Time Mom Confession. I do also have a short story on self-love and unlearning survival. So it's titled Journal of an Overachiever. And Bowing to Predators will be there end of November, early December. You're going to be able to check it out as well.
And now, to conclude, I always ask every guest the same question. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
My question is, Sandrine, what is your truth that heals?
My truth that heals. It might seem simple, but I think it just goes down. All my experience just goes down to, I am worth it. Like in a lot of places in my life, I didn't think people wanted to know about what was going on for me. Or I thought I had value because, all of these accomplishments I was doing. I have value because I can do this for someone. I can take care of this. I can help with that and all of that. But I am worthy. My word is there, even if I don't do anything, for other people. It is not linked to what I can do. It is not linked to what I can accomplish. I can just be there. I can take space. I can use my voice. I can be sad. I can be angry. I can have all of those feelings, and that's okay. I have the space for it, and I should be better at expressing them, expressing my need and all that, because yeah, I deserve, to be loved. I deserve to have those emotions. I deserve to be heard. I think just taking my space and realizing that, yeah, I am worth all that space, like my story needs to be heard. My story deserves to be heard because for so long, who wants to know about that? Who wants to know about like your meltdown? Who wants to know about all of those things? I was really good at gaslighting myself, at telling myself, you're just being weak, you're just being a wimp and all of that. So just giving myself permission to say like, no, you are worth all of those things. I think that's probably my truth that heals.
Well, thank you so much, Sandrine. And to those who are in the audience, go ahead in the show notes. I'll be leaving the links if in case you don't know where to find our guest information. You can find it in the show notes. And please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and please comment so that other people can also listen to this episode. So, Sandrine, thank you so much for being a great guest on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me.